Joining us right now is the one, the only, Ann Coulter. Good morning, Ann. How are you?
Hi, Ann.
Good morning. Hi, Jillian.
It's great to talk to you. How are you doing?
Fine, thank you. And you?
I'm
waiting for you. I'm just hoping you guys are going to ask me about Dr. Jean.
Oh.
Dr. Jean.
I don't know anything. Yes.
Oh, for Pete's sake, do you never turn on MSNBC?
Ann Coulter, please tell us about Dr. Jean.
We've been talking about Joy Behar wearing sunglasses indoors.
Swifty Lazar's sunglasses, no less.
Well, if you haven't read the story, then we'll just discuss it later this week. But this is the latest woman to accuse Trump of rape.
Oh, that's, what's her name?
The advice columnist.
Jean, right?
Right, but our advice column is called Dear Jean.
That's right. Okay. Now, who did you ask us to ask you about?
Her,
No,
that
Dr.
story.
Jean.
Did you read it?
Doctor. Yes, I read the whole story. But here's my thing. When people go, and I go, oh, she's doing a book. And then people go, what about the other 17 accusers? So why believe her or not believe them, believe her? I don't know. I believe men are dogs, and I believe they're all capable of everything. And why should our...
Why are you looking at me?
No, not you. But why not? I mean, I don't fiercely protect people I don't know. I don't know her. I don't know him. I do think he's capable. He grabs women by the wussy with a P. So why not? You don't believe
hers is her story about Trump is the only one in her story that I believe.
Ah, okay.
Well, you believe this one?
Well, let me say that's the only one that even seems within the realm of the possible. But you have to read the story to understand what I'm saying. She has an excerpt from the book. I say the story; it's an excerpt in New York Magazine, and I've been meaning to send it around to my female friends, but I find it hard to believe that every few years Dr. Jean ran into basically Ted Bundy.
Oh, so you're saying he's not the only person?
No. What she does in the story is it's like her list of the 100 worst men.
Oh, yes.
Throughout her life.
Yes.
Utterly crazy stories.
Yeah.
Including literally running into a guy who's he must have been Ted Bundy at the University of Indiana.
See, I just read the New York Times, which of course focused
you've only
on
read
Trump.
the Trump part. No,
correct.
Trump is hard to believe. I not that since he's backed down on his latest immigration threat. No, that's the one I totally believe. Screw it, he's guilty.
Yeah, well, I'm with you on that. I mean, it's not that hard to see.
Putting that one aside, okay, I'll just give you one, but I'm bitterly disappointed. You know, I always count on you guys to talk about the fun story.
Yeah, well,
I know.
typically we're up on this stuff. I did see something where she said that when this alleged incident between her and Trump was going down, she wished she would have asked him for his taxes.
Oh, Jesus. What?
Did you see that part?
I thought that was
so she's totally excluded that there's a political motive. But again, I'm excluding the Trump alleged assault because I'm so mad at him. I have no interest in defending him.
You're mad at him about the 2-week extension? Is that what?
His entire presidency.
Well, yes, you're not alone.
I mean, we didn't start the clock last week. It's why I'm going to shut the border down. It's a national emergency. I'm going to deport millions. And then, 10 minutes later, I have suspended my call. If he were serious about keeping any of his immigration promises, he would have hired Chris Kobach from day one. He was the one everyone expected him to hire. It was so obvious. Remember, Chris Kobach he and Chris Kobach is not only an elegant, brilliant man who would do extremely well in media interviews.
Well, he would.
He created E-Verify.
Yeah.
He's the one who came up with how Mexico pays for the wall, something they won't stop taunting Trump over. Well, Kobach said tax remittances back to Mexico. That's how Mexico pays. We used to send immigrants, mostly illegal, but also legal immigrants, send $20 billion a year back to Mexico. That's what it had been for the last decade. Since Trump has been president, it's gone up to, I believe, the last number I saw was $30 billion a year. Trump does not need Congress to do that. They're Treasury regulations. He could just say, okay, that's fine, but we're putting a little tax on you pulling money out of the country, something that is not even allowed in many countries. In any event, that's Chris Kobach. We'll know that Trump is serious about keeping any of his immigration promises when he hires Chris Kobach. He could end this whole crisis tomorrow by saying, one of the things that very few people noticed, that first week of Trump's presidency, probably because Steve Bannon was there and he had Trump had some vague recollection of what he had promised in order to get to the White House, and he came up with what I fondly refer to as the Muslim ban, actually the travel ban. That was upheld by the Supreme Court last year. All this hysteria in the New York Times and all over cable news, it's unconstitutional. No. The Supreme Court reminded us what many of us were saying at the time. Both the Constitution and explicit statutory law states that the president can exclude any class of immigrants. He could say no redheads for a while. Our population is getting shorter. We're not taking short people for the next 3 years. He can do it for any reason whatsoever. He can certainly do it because the State Department has put these dozen states on the terrorist watch list, or whatever they call it. I think Madeleine Albright changed it to countries of concern. In any event, that was upheld with very strong language. So right now, Trump could say, because of the crisis at the border, we're having a little pause on immigrants from El Salvador, Honduras, and Guatemala. He could do it all today. But could we get back to Dr. Jean?
All right.
I wish we had time.
Yeah. Let's take a quick break, and we'll come back. We have to take a look at the roads. Ann Coulter's the guest. You can get her online at AnnCoulter.com or at Ann Coulter on Twitter. But right now, it's time to check in with Bill Thomas. Jiffy Lube's up 10. We're joined by Ann Coulter, whose most recent column can be read at AnnCoulter.com. And, of course, you can buy all of her books at Amazon.com. And Treason happens to be my favorite.
To one question that's it's about Trump before the E. Jean stuff. And so he's kind of now we've got 2 extra weeks for the border stuff. What about the Iran stuff? Because he kind of backed off that last minute. It seems like he's saying a lot and then he backs off.
That I liked.
Okay.
Though I'll tell you, he was.
I liked it too. Me too.
Yeah, but I do have a complaint with that. Which I don't care as long as the result is the same. I mean, I always knew when I wrote In Trump We Trust. Yeah, I know. I'm looking at him clear-eyed. Yes, he's a tacky, braggadocious Bulgarian. Fully aware of that, went into this with my eyes open. But that business about how he called the advisors back and asked them how many people would die.
That was weird.
Could you check with some people who have actually been in the military and advised a president? Because I am pretty sure they do not tell the commander-in-chief about any action without an estimate of deaths.
Yeah. Well, now the White House is saying that he was fully aware of it weeks before. The White House is now going against him, which is hysterical.
Tucker Carlson was the one that talked him out of it, is based on what...
Oh, that scares me.
According to the New York Times.
Yeah.
Oh, for God's sake.
All right. Now, Ann, we have you here. Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, who is the Somali refugee who now represents Minnesota. There's a big report about her in the local Minnesota paper where they say that she committed immigration fraud herself to get her brother here, that she married her brother.
What?
Yeah, she married her brother to scam the immigration system so he could get citizenship.
Oh.
Did you see that?
Well, it's been going around for a while. Various people. There's a professor at UVA who was pointing this out on Twitter. Things she said, seeming to make it pretty clear that is what she did. I mean, this goes on all the time, and we should just get rid of the marriage exception because we don't have enough police in the country to check fraud on these marriage applications. But to have a congresswoman doing it and with her brother, no, really I think creepy. This is a pretty big story. Yeah.
All right, we're running out of time. What's your final thoughts on Dr. Jean?
Girls, no one is supposed to disbelieve anyone's story of sexual assault, but I am telling you, exclude the Trump one. Read through these stories. They're running into Ted Bundy, who was an undergrad at University of Indiana.
That's a real story? Really? It's Ted Bundy? Oh, my gosh.
No,
I thought
that's the kind of man she's describing. He lunges at her in the car, comes chasing at her with a knife. I'm sorry. I'm calling BS on these stories.
And wasn't Les Moonves one of the ones that she said went after her too?
Yes, I think she very carefully. I mean, one of the ones that the camp director at one of her when she was 12, literally, she's like running into a Ted Bundy equivalent every few years of her life. She seems to have poured over the record and seen who is every man I've ever encountered who's been accused or found guilty of some sort of sexual assault, because the camp director was later convicted of molesting little girls at the camp. But her description of it, where he's coming into, the lunchroom where they're all singing camp songs and sticking his hand up her pants, I'm sorry, no one noticed that. It's just not very believable.
All right. Ann Coulter, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Yes,
we'll do it again soon.
Ann.
Good to talk to you, Jillian, and you too, John.
All right. Sounds good.
She sounded more excited about me. Pretty sure it's the cancer.
I'm the plus one.
It makes people I notice people are extra nice to me all the time. Like, it used to be a point in my life where men were really super nice for other reasons. And now it's like, well, I'm bald and I have no eyelashes and brows, but I forget. So if I'm out at a restaurant, I'm getting coffee, people are like, oh my gosh, you know what? Just take that coffee. I'm like, what? Just go on to have that coffee. By the way, I used to go to Starbucks drive-thru, and this 25-year-old would constantly, when on my way to Good Day LA every day, would give me free coffee for other reasons.
You should just keep the bald look for that.
I know. People are so nice when they think you have cancer. So nice.
Even Randy?